Does the perfect beginner coral exist? If it does, I think it's mushrooms. I'm gonna walk you through the different types of mushrooms, the lighting, flow, and any pests you might run into. There are 3 common types of mushrooms in the hobby: Discosomas, Rhodactis, and Ricordias. The most common kind of mushrooms are Discosomas. This includes Superman mushrooms, jawbreakers, and even Neglectus mushrooms. This is the fastest growing genus, and they typically spread through a process called budding. This is where they'll slowly walk across a rock, leaving a small piece of their foot behind, and once that foot gets uncovered by the mushroom, it will actually become its own mushroom. The next type is Rhodactis mushrooms. This includes forest fires, St. Thomas's, and tequila sunrise mushrooms, and these are typically going to also reproduce through budding. However, they're a lot slower growing than the Discosoma mushrooms, which can tend to take over an entire rock. The third type of mushroom is Ricordias. There's 2 different species of Ricordias, Ricordia floridas and Ricordia humus. Ricordia floridas are found in the Caribbean, especially off the coast of Florida, and Ricordia humus are found in the Indo-Pacific. Ricordia floridas will typically be smaller and a lot more bubbly than Ricordia humus, which are usually a lot bigger. They can get as big as 12 inches. However, the thing is, the Ricordia floridas will split a lot quicker. This is because they'll actually develop a second, third, or even fourth mouth and then tear themselves in half. Whereas humus will typically also reproduce through budding like the other kinds of mushrooms, but it'll usually happen a lot slower because they get so much bigger before they start to split. Keeping mushrooms is pretty easy. Usually with lighting, they like low lighting, around 50 to 120 par. However, if you're looking to keep them in that higher par range, it's a good idea to slowly acclimate them to it, because if you jump them straight into that higher lighting, they sometimes can get a little bleached and not like that lighting right away. In terms of flow, usually they prefer low to moderate flow, just enough to make sure there's not any detritus getting onto the coral. If you have a low area in your sand bed that doesn't get really disturbed very much, that's a perfect spot to put some mushrooms. For nutrient levels, it's best to keep your nitrates between 5 and 50 and your phosphates between 0.05 and 0.5. This is because they like a little bit of nutrients, and I've seen these grow in the cleanest tanks and the dirtiest and grimiest tanks. So the numbers don't matter too much. However, in those parameters is definitely where they're gonna thrive the most and where I recommend keeping your tank, because usually you're not just gonna be keeping one kind of coral. If your nutrients are on the lower side, I would recommend supplementing that through powdered foods like Reefroids or Benepets, and even pellet foods on bigger mushrooms, they will very readily accept. In terms of pests, there's not really much to worry about with mushrooms compared to things like zoas, where you have to worry about zoa eating spiders, zoa eating nudies. Mushrooms will really just have one pest, and that's red planaria. These are a small red flatworm that can start to cover the corals and irritate them, especially when you get a large enough population. This can be managed in tank with something like a wrasse, who will go through and pick and eat at them. However, the best way to prevent them is by giving your corals a little iodine dip before you put them into the tank. I usually recommend about 5 to 10 minutes, and you really won't have to worry about any planaria in your system. Now, when it comes to selecting your mushroom, it's important that you look at the health of the specimen. A lot of times you can see mushrooms that are bleached and they'll look super bright and super attractive. However, the problem with those is that they will not stay that color if they even survive at all. Another thing to look for is their mesentery filaments. This will be a strange, stringy substance, usually coming out of the mouth or out of the body of the mushroom. This is a sign of stress and usually means that it's been cut or it's irritated in a way where it could die. I'm not saying that a bleached mushroom or a mushroom putting out filaments is definitely gonna die, but if there's another option that isn't bleached, has a deeper, darker color, and looks a little bit happier, I would definitely recommend going with that. Hope you guys enjoyed this video going over mushrooms. If you guys have any questions about mushrooms or any suggestions for videos for us to do in the future, make sure to leave those in the comments down below. If you did enjoy the video, make sure to leave a like, and to stay up to date with all of our latest videos, make sure you subscribe.